how the next foreclosure crisis could be right around the corner. Hey everybody, Scott Walters, welcome into the channel. If you're new, I want to thank you for coming. If you're returning, I want to thank you for your continued support. Before we get into today's red hot topic, I'm going to politely ask you to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Please watch to the end for my final thought. Hit the bell icon so you're notified when new videos are released. It's very important to stay close to the channel in these very tricky times. All right, folks, welcome into the channel. I hope you're all doing great. It's always an honor and a privilege to be with you. So yeah, here's the thing, folks. This is crazy. The next foreclosure crisis could be right around the corner. And like you all know, many times I have to laugh at this stuff because it is so serious. It's like a built-in self-defense mechanism. I mean, my gosh, this is insanity. The markets that we're currently living in, the shakiness, we all now are, like we've talked about, waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is absolute insanity. And the scary part about this one is many people are asleep at the wheel. They have no idea of what's even looming right now with our economy and the markets. And again, as somebody who's lived through the last downturn, the last crash, even did a short sale on a property during the last downturn. And those of you who don't know, a short sale is much different than a foreclosure. You'd never want a foreclosure on your record. Many of you have had those. Many people are gonna have those. It's like, just imagine this. Anytime you've applied for a rent to lease or a loan or anything, they don't ask you, have you ever had a short sale? They ask you, have you ever had an eviction or a foreclosure? And I know many of you know that I have admitted in the last downturn I had to let go of a home, but I want to clarify that in fact was a short sale, not quite as serious as a foreclosure, but it may as well have been one because it still hurt the same. And the reality is, folks, is many of you watching know people that are in fact going to lose homes and potentially very soon. And I'm going to explain to you why. So first of all, folks, over the course of this pandemic, it really all comes back to the pandemic. And I think that's really the elephant in the room right now that many people are missing right now. Is this is all, if it wasn't for the pandemic, we wouldn't even be talking right now. Yet everybody is so caught up in what the market's doing and what they think it's going to do and speculating. Everybody's missing the fact of what in fact brought us here. And it was the pandemic. The pandemic is exactly what put fuel on this fire. It was market manipulation from the government in the form of stimulus spending, and stimulus measures. So when they made us essential workers out of realtors, which is ridiculous. I could see if you made essential workers out of our people at our grocery stores, basic, services that we need for survival. But this was just to stimulate markets. They put realtors as essential workers and dropped interest rates, and the floodgates opened and people were drinking the real estate Kool-Aid at astronomical levels, drunk on this stuff. And I witnessed it firsthand. I was drunk on it myself, for lack of a better choice of words, because instantly I was like, oh, this is incredible. Look at all this business, but it didn't pass the smell test. It was unorganic. And so what it all boils down to now, folks, is the hangover that it's going to leave. This stimulus, people drunk on stimulus, the government drunk on spending money out of thin air is going to have blowback. The dust will settle. We will pay the piper, and this is how it's potentially going to look this time. Well, first of all, we've created the biggest housing bubble ever recorded in world history. That's not a good thing, folks. I hope you understand that. When you're in the biggest bubble ever recorded in world history, that's not a good thing. We know what happened in the last bubble. When the real estate market fails, everything fails. Jobs went away. People lost homes. It was blood in the streets. Well, we're in another huge bubble. And the challenging thing is it all comes back to the pandemic. The thing is, folks, is this time it wasn't even organically produced. This was manufactured market manipulation. This was produced out of thin air. That's another huge warning sign. Number 3 is the amount of money that was spent on homes See, in the last bubble, we didn't have this. In the last real estate bubble, people were buying houses, but you could still come in and pretty much make offers on property. You were not making offers over asking price at astronomical levels. So we've had millions and millions and millions, probably 10 million homes sold just through the pandemic at over asking price. Banks are got their neck so far out with these properties. And here's the challenge, folks. Like I've always said, this is psychological warfare for many people. And again, like I said, having lived through the last downturn, I made a payment on a depreciated asset, a house that was no longer worth what I paid for a long time before I decided to list it for sale. And just so you know, a short sale is when you list the property for sale yourself, get the offers, and go to the bank and say, this is what the house is worth. Do you want to accept it? Otherwise, this thing's in pre-foreclosure. And banks were doing that because they're not in the business of selling houses. They would much rather just do a short sale than have to go through however long years of getting a house, sold and off the market. So the reality is, folks, is that millions and millions of people overpaid for their houses, and we are in fact headed for a correction. We all know these markets now are very shaky. The stock market's on borrowed time. Inflation's going through the roof. People are being forced back to work, and they just got underneath big house payments, car payments, took vacations, and now they're like, oh my God, my cost of living has gone way up. This euphoria is wearing off. It's the calm before the storm, folks. And final thoughts today, as I come to you as a friend, as a content creator, somebody who wants to see you succeed. I know one of the things is letting you know, the first step to getting past a problem, admit there's a problem. We have a huge problem. This problem is going to look like this. When the housing market shifts and prices start coming down, which they will, and it doesn't even matter by how much, it could be 5%, it could be 25%. The amount of reduction isn't that important. The facts are good. The facts will be all these people that bought in the height, 10 million homes sold through the pandemic at over asking price. As soon as people understand that their house is no longer worth what they paid for it, where they thought they were enjoying this great appreciation rate, they're just, whether they can make the payment or not, it's going to be psychological warfare for them to know they're now making a payment on a house. If they bought today, they could have bought it for less money. And my friends, here's what potentially can happen. People start dumping homes, going to market, trying to off these houses so they can basically get on the sidelines too, again, if they're lucky, but it'll be too late. The Titanic will already be going down, and this, in fact, could spark a massive foreclosure crisis because people will just start walking away from homes. Whatever the case will be, it could collapse the banking system completely. So we got to monitor this moving forward, folks. I really want to continue to just urge you to be a level-headed realist and understand these are real life things that can go on out there. And right now, this is a potential big one that I foresee is a possibility, a high probability of rearing its ugly head. 10 million people just got underneath massive over asking price. Whatever the values of those homes were, they paid more. So as the market starts to cool and adjust and we have other market pain, the housing market will follow, and people will now owe more on their homes than they're worth. And that's going to not sit well for many people. And with contagion in our digital diet today, something could spark it just like that. So stay tuned to the channel. If you appreciate the content, I humbly ask you to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Go make it count today. We'll see you on the next video.